TypeJazz was just released for After Effects, and it's the easiest text animation tool I've used in a long time. Bounce and elastic text animation has always been a pain in the butt in After Effects, involving tedious keyframing or crazy expressions. TypeJazz solves all that because it has bounce and overshoot animations built in, and 80 presets that we can apply in one click. And we can edit any of the parameters, like position, scale, or even 3D rotation. We can change the number of bounces, the easing, the rate of decay, and it's all packaged in one easy-to-use effect. So in this video, I'll show you how to use TypeJazz to create a subtitle template and import it to Premiere Pro. Let's get into it.
So over here in After Effects, I'm going to type some text. I'm using the font Kaneda because it's a nice, tall, narrow font. And then I'll come over to TypeJazz and just hit the piano button. And we instantly have our nice TypeJazz animation. I'll hit U on the keyboard to open up keyframes, and we can see that there's these animation progress keyframes going from 0 to 100%. So if I drag this out, it'll slow down the animation, or we can speed it up, but I think it was fine where it was. If we open up the text, we can see that there's 3 text animators with tons of stuff inside, but I'm not going to worry about any of that because we can control all of our animation from the TypeJazz effect. Instead of the default animation, I want my text to swing down. Right now, the Z rotation control rotates the text, but the X and Y rotation controls don't appear to do anything. Those are for 3D rotation. So in TypeJazz, let's hit this 3D icon to apply per character 3D. And now we can move around the X and Y rotation. I'll change the X rotation to 90 degrees and hit play. Okay, it's doing this weird domino flipping thing, so let's set position to 0. That's better. Now I want to change the rotation point. So I'm going to start moving that grouping alignment control. The grouping alignment is essentially the anchor point for each character in our text layer. So we can drag this grouping alignment all the way back to -100, which will set it to the top of each letter. And when we hit play, the text swings down. Let's check out other animation controls. We can hit reveal text, and that reveals the text on from nothing, and that looks even better. I think I'll drag the position up a touch. That way it falls down 10 pixels and swings. That's a nice subtle and natural motion, and I think it's a nice detail. And just like that, our text animation with TypeJazz is done. But once we use this for subtitles, I think this text will get lost on a white background. I'll turn on the transparency grid and yeah, it disappears. So we need something to help it pop. Let's come to the character panel and add a black stroke and bring that up to 5 or 7, just something light. And then let's add a drop shadow. Go to Effects, Perspective, Drop Shadow to add the effect. I'll increase the drop shadow opacity to 100 so it's solid and flat, and then move the distance back to maybe 15, and let's play that back. And now this feels like a nice cartoony text effect. To get this into Premiere, I'll open up the source text, right-click, and hit Add Property to Essential Graphics. And that opens the Essential Graphics panel for creating our template. Let's also add other basic controls like position and scale. If we come down to the transform controls and try to drag in either of these properties, we get a warning saying it's not supported. And that's because 3D values aren't supported by the Essential Graphics panel yet. But there's an easy workaround. Go to Effects, Expression Controls, Point Control, and add that to our layer. And then pick whip the position to the point control. Now the point control effect drives the position property, and we can control the position from this effect. But when I edit this, it looks like there's some Z position movement going on. So I'll open up the position expression that was created from our pick whip, and I'll set this third value for the Z position to 0. I only want to affect the X and Y position, so now that's fixed. And we can add this point control to the Essential Graphics panel. Next, let's add a slider control. Go to Effects, Expression Controls, Slider Control. And we can pick whip the scale to the slider. And now we can scale the text from this one slider control. I'll add the slider to Essential Graphics, call it Scale, and then let's hit Edit Range. I'll set a max range of 0 to 200 and hit OK. And now we can go up to 200% scale if we need to, but I'll leave it at 100% by default. With these controls added, we can easily resize and reposition our text on the Premiere Pro side. Lastly, I want to add color controls for my text. I'll right-click the drop shadow color and add that into the EGP. But how can we drag the text fill and stroke colors in? We can't right-click in the character panel. Well, the answer is actually simple, and we will use text animators. Come over to Animate, Fill Color, RGB, and this adds an animator at the bottom of the stack. When we change this color, it changes the color of our text. I'll make this a light blue. We can also add Stroke Color, RGB, and I'll make this one a dark blue. And we can actually delete the range selector. It's not doing anything. So I'll right-click and add these both to the EGP and rename them to Fill Color and Stroke Color. And I'll drag the drop shadow color to the bottom for better organization and make it the same dark blue as the stroke. Let's give our template a name, Type Jazz Subtitles. And then we can hit Export Motion Graphics Template. It'll save the project, and then we can export to the local templates folder and hit OK. And that will save and export our template. And then hop over to Premiere. In Premiere, I'll open the Captioneer extension, and I'll come down to Select MOGRT and pick the MOGRT that we just exported. Then come down to Create and hit Add MOGRTs, and that spits them all out onto the timeline. When we click on any of these MOGRTs in the timeline, we can edit the settings inside the Essential Graphics panel. We can resize and reposition the text, we can change the colors, and we can edit any controls that we added earlier in After Effects. And we can easily copy any changes we make by using the copy-paste buttons inside Captioneer to paste the settings to all the MOGRTs we select on our timeline. And those graphics instantly update. Let's play it from the beginning and watch it back.
Type Jazz was just released for After Effects, and it's the best text animation tool that I've seen in a long time. And that's a wrap. Type Jazz made this whole process so easy, and it's perfect for animated captions, but honestly it's great for all text animation. Jake Bartlett has a full 20-minute video going over all the different features for Type Jazz, and I'll link that in the description, and you can find the tool at his website, jakeinmotion.com. That's all for now. Thanks for watching, and catch you in the next one.